Welcome back to the Devblog. I'm Keith Bergman, and today we're going to talk about a couple projects I'm working on the TI-99 4A. We're going to have a progress report on Goats and Golems, a game I've talked about a couple times here on the channel. And I'm going to give you the first look at a basic game called Tollkeeper that is almost finished, that's going to be coming out in the Basic Pack 1 cassette package that I want to put out, hopefully by the end of this year, maybe not quite ready for that, but this game's almost done, but we're running into some interesting and unique problems with the amount of memory I can use in TI Basic and still make it work. So there are some things to work on there. But first things first, let's talk Goats and Golems. Now, I haven't made as much progress with this game as I want, but I'm getting there slowly. There's some days when I just don't get in the zone at all while I'm coding. I'll start working on things, and it's like a trudge, you know. You get through a couple lines, you test out one particular little thing, and then you go do something else for an hour. You know, I don't get in that zone and really get a lot done, but I'm making some progress. I'm getting through. You can actually move the goats in your team now. You can jump. We had two different kinds of jumps in the game. There's a regular jump and a super jump over two columns. And we just installed the attack routine, so you can attack your opponent and potentially knock them off the mountain into the water. So that's all done. Then we have to work on the golems themselves, which are going to come up out of the water and shake the columns and make them gradually start coming down into the sea. And then we're going to work on the AI to have the computer play. I'm not even going to probably make a two-player option for this game. I may just one player versus AI, because I feel like that's how 99% of people are going to play it. But the main thing is that the conventions of each move are set, and I'm figuring out like the mechanics of making them actually work. One thing that I found interesting that I realized I was doing was there's an interesting mix when I start making a game. Sometimes if I'm not motivated or I'm not really sure where it's going to end up, I start out doing things that are kind of window dressing, just so I have some skeleton to build on. You know, like I'll make the title screen for the game, or I'll make an instruction screen, or I'll make one of the things that happens that doesn't necessarily need to happen, like a non-functional part of the game, just so that there's something there that I can build on, even if I don't have a clear idea in my head of where the game is going. I did that to an extent with Goats and Golems by having the title sequence with the little flipping goat animations and the falling off the side of the mountain. It's going to be a pretty rare occurrence when you fall off the side of your own mountain. That's pretty much just going to be you making a mistake and hitting the wrong key at some point. So that fall routine will definitely be a big part of the battle sequences when you knock out another goat and take all their hit points away. But it wasn't necessary at the time. And similarly, like the flipping goats at the beginning, you know, wasn't really necessary at the time, but it was a big motivator to get me to keep going. Now I'm at a point where there are lots of little finesses that can be done, like the flipping goats routine when I jump with one of the goats, especially when I do the super jump, looks a little funny because I'm still just doing the jump straight up and down and then whoop, moving them over. It's not like a seamless jump over to where they're going. And that's something I want to have in the game. But now I'm at a point where I'm kind of going full speed ahead on the actual mechanics. So a lot of the little extras, like right now, the jump routines work just fine. They just don't look 100% where I want them to look. But now I'm more focused on the meat and potato stuff. You know, you're actually working on the bare bones parameters of the game at that point. And I think once you get rolling on that, some of that extra window dressing stuff moves itself down the priority list. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And now I'm excited to show you for the very first time a glimpse of Tollkeeper.
Tollkeeper is a strategy board game in TI Basic with elements of Risk, Monopoly, and Stratego. Two opposing sides, red and blue, are acquiring land in a green valley, while caravans travel back and forth across the lands. Each tile has a monetary value and can be bought or improved by a player, but only if connected to their current holdings in a cardinal direction. And if a caravan passes over a player's land, they pay a toll into the player's treasury as tribute. The playfield is a 20 by 20 grid, generated randomly at the beginning of the game. Each tile can have a maximum value of 16. Dark green tiles are worth 9 or more gold, while light green are worth 1 to 8. Players can view the value of any tile, including ones controlled by their opponent, during their turn. Each round begins with a tax of 5 gold levied by the king and the movement of the caravans back and forth across the valley. Then each player takes a turn, which starts with the roll of a die. Buying, selling, or attacking a tile costs the player 2 moves during their turn. Improving a tile takes 1 move and adds 1 gold to a selected tile's value, to a maximum of 16. Players must find a balance between expanding their terrain, increasing their income of tolls, defending and improving their land, and attacking their opponent's holdings. When one player runs out of gold, the game is over. To maximize speed in TI Basic, most of the screen is laid out ahead of time, including the turn menu. Players select tiles to buy, view, improve, sell, or attack based on a map grid system of letters. The top left tile is AA, while the bottom right is TT. When buying an acre, the asking price is 2 times the stated value, but the player can make a lower offer. The computer can accept, counteroffer, or refuse the transaction. If the computer refuses, the player still gives up 2 moves. The attack sequence is fairly simplistic and is more or less a dice roll with a slight weighted advantage to the attacker. Each round of attacks reduces the value of one tile or the other by 1 gold. If the attacker's value falls to 1 gold, they have failed, and the opponent takes over their tile. If they win, all but 1 gold is transferred to the value of their newly conquered terrain.
So the last episode of Tales from the War Room, I was working on the game Zombie Mambo from 1983, a game that takes up all the available space in TI Basic with a cassette system. Even that little bit that the computer sets aside for disk access and operation, you can't use that. So the game was only released on cassette, and to use it with a full disk system, you have to modify it to be able to run in extended BASIC and take advantage of the 32K memory expansion. If you want to run the stock basic system, you have to power everything down and load it from cassette. Now, I think I'm running into that same issue with Tollkeeper. I haven't run into a memory problem yet on my emulator on Classic 99, but there is a function that I use to free up a few bytes called call files. It's not an extensively documented function, but if you type call files 1 on a TI 99-4A on the real hardware, and then type new, you can use that memory then, so it gives you a few more bytes to work with in BASIC. And sometimes with a really big TI BASIC program that really, needs every byte of space, sometimes that's the only way to make them work. Now, in Classic 99, there's sort of I don't know if it's a feature or a bug or a glitch, but they let you do call files 0. And call file 0 clears out all kinds of room, and relatively speaking, and makes the game runnable. I can only run it in TI Basic right now on the emulator if I type call file 0. The thing is, on real hardware, call file 0 is not an option. I'm faced with the possibility of having a game right now that I can only run in the emulator, and I won't be able to make work even on a bare bones cassette system on the TI hardware. So one of the challenges coming up with Tollkeeper is not only getting the AI routine in there, but stripping out even more to make this thing somehow fit into the 16K original setup and run from TI Basic. And that's a big challenge that I hope to work on in the next week or two, and I'll give you some updates next time on the Devblog. Thanks for watching.